Hi, Erin.
Hello, Jess. How are you?
I'm feeling pretty good today. I can't say pretty good, but I'm feeling pretty good. There we go.
Yeah, there.
Erin, it's coming. It's coming.
It's
What's your word of the day?
my word of the day is courage in honor of the guest that we have with us today, because I think it
Mm.
captures the journey that she has been on in the last 6 years. And I'm just feeling very connected to that.
Oh, I love that.
What's yours?
Patience, because I don't have
Oh,
any and I need it. So if I
yes.
speak it into the world, it will come in
It's
waves.
manifesting.
I'm manifesting a lot of patience right now. That's where I'm going to
I
go
love
with.
it. I
Lauren,
love
what's
it.
your word of the episode?
Oh, I think my word of the day is grounded.
Okay.
Just so much happening right now that I just need to every once in a while take that deep breath and settle settle into my chair instead of being up here. So it's grounded.
I like it. I think that is a beautiful start to this episode, because I imagine in the journey that you are going to share with us, there have been many moments where you needed that word itself. So, welcome to
Yes.
Fit and Flustered. We are super excited to have you. Jess and I have been waiting for this conversation, and really so excited to have you with us and just honored. We have with us Lauren Provenzano, and she is going to share an amazing journey with us. But a little bit about her is she is the Vice President of Product Development and Innovation. Please tell me I got that right.
You did. Yes.
At American Council on Exercise. It's a mouthful. And I have had the great honor of working with Lauren for, going on 11 years now,
Yeah,
probably in
probably. Yeah.
various products that ACE has put out into our industry as a subject matter expert, and just working on educational pieces and all of that. So I have had a very close working relationship with Lauren, and I am so excited she's here. So before we dive into your story, tell us a little bit about you, your journey, and kind of what you do in the space.
Yeah. So I have been in fitness, what should I say this, for 26 years. So I started in athletic training and I worked at a university. I taught, I worked with the injured athletes. I was, because I was teaching, they didn't want me to travel. So I was primarily responsible for rehab. And I loved the post surgical aspect of things. It was really fascinating, but I needed a change. And what was really cool about moving into fitness is everybody needs a little bit of love, something hurts somewhere. And so I kind of took all that knowledge and brought it in. And I was, I love working out. So it was a really perfect fit for me. Then I moved into operation, management operations, those kind of things. But in the last 15 years, I think my career journey has been probably the most interesting. I had my own business for a little while and I did offered continuing education credit. And then I had this great opportunity to work for Fit Tech startup back in 2014. And it was super fascinating, super fun, really fast paced, but I had a blast doing it. And back then we developed an app and a trainer network where we delivered exercise to people one-on-one, like once, twice, or four times a month. And then the rest of the training was through the app. And the really interesting part is yes, of course, like course training through an app, that's no big deal. Back then, we couldn't get funding because VCs would say, well, who would ever want to get their workouts through an app? Yeah. So fast
Everyone.
forward to 2020, and I was like, aren't you all just regretting your decision not to fund
Look
us?
at my crystal
Um,
ball I had.
Right? It's like, but they do, I promise. So we were just too early, which was a bummer. But what that did is open the door to working at ACE. So in 2016, I came over to ACE, and I just feel like working here is just this perfect combination of all the things I love to do. I love the fitness industry. I love helping people to feel better and feel empowered through exercise. I love teaching. I love education. I think lifelong learning is essential. So I love contributing to the industry in that way, something that's much bigger than just me. And the technology piece. I love the technology piece. I think technology is here to facilitate our lives. And how do you use that to facilitate learning? How do you facilitate exercise? How do you facilitate connection? All of those things. So, yeah, I feel like I'm just in this great, perfect spot in my career where it all kind of came together. So that's why I've been with ACE for 10 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love that you have such a varied background and experience when we think about all the opportunities that are available to pros in the space. You've had the athletic training piece, but you've brought that into fitness and were able to use some of that knowledge. But you worked for a startup, and there, I think really maybe the word I should have chosen is innovation, because you've done that and step by step in your career, but in this operational position, this leadership position that really
Yeah.
does help bring innovation and education together so that we better educate our professionals that are out there and kind of keep them on the cutting edge of what this industry is becoming. It's an industry
Mhm.
that, as we know, it's constantly churning, it's constantly changing, and it's almost like we're always at a dead run to try to keep up with research, development, new opportunities. Now we've got the AI conversation. So yeah,
Yep.
it's interesting to see how you have managed to hold on to that thread of innovation from literally stepping into the industry until now. And now you're in this position where innovation is literally part of your title.
Yeah. It's awesome. I love it. I feel
Yeah,
very fortunate. Absolutely. Very grateful for it
absolutely.
all. Yeah.
Well, we know that you're fit, but tell us about being a little flustered. So,
Oh,
obviously, you've had quite the career. You've been in the fitness industry for 26 years. So, there's got to have been a time in your midlife where maybe things didn't go exactly as planned, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, or career wise. But tell us about that time that you've been pretty flustered.
yeah. So I think the past 6 years have been a lot of fluster. A little bit about sort of my personal life. So I have three kids who are absolutely wonderful. You know, 18 and 20. Sorry, 18 because they're twins, and then 20. And two of them are on the autism spectrum. So they have level one autism, which used to be called Asperger's, but is no longer. It's now called level one autism. And so they are, tracked with in education with very few support resources. They really get along in life well, and they have different challenges than the rest of us have. And some of them are deeper, and some of them require a lot more support, more at home than at school. So that's always sort of been this constant throughout my last 20 years. And so there's that about me. I'll also kind of clearly maybe a little bit of a type A personality, and I've always had a sort of a driving, ambitious personality. So there's that piece of me that's just kind of always going, 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 and moving forward. And then, of course, in 2020, we all experienced a pandemic and everything shut down. And it was like, whoa, this is crazy and weird. The one thing for me was I had a commute from my home to ACE that was about 45 minutes to an hour each way. So I lost 10 hours a week when I started working at ACE, and my workouts suffered because of it, because like in real life, that's you got to prioritize, and with the kids and everything. That's where, just like lots of women in the world, that's where mine ended up at the bottom. I ended up at the bottom. So in 2020, I was like, oh, wait, I can, I can go to the gym. Well, I couldn't go to the gym right away, but once it opened, I could go to the gym. Right. And I was like, this is great. I could get back to the gym and this feels great. And then, I decided, oh, I've got this extra time. I'm going to get my MBA. So I've wanted to do this forever. And I found this great program, online program at the University of Illinois, East School of Business. And I started working on my MBA in the fall of 2020. And then in January of 2021, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I picked up when, I call in to get my results, whatever, calling him back. And I'm on a walk and I'm fully expecting her to say, yeah, everything's fine. And that is not what she said. And I was like, what? I think I need I think I need a minute. I was like, that was just not what I expected to hear. We're still in like kind of peak COVID times. Hospitals are shut down for the most part for anybody unless it's an emergency at this point. So I was actually really fortunate to be able to get in within 3 weeks, and I had a full mastectomy on the left side. So that was fast. It was very fast. And because I'm that type A personality and I'm a very logical thinker, I'm like, okay, this is what's happened. This is what I do next, right? This is okay. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it at home. And, my kids, I'm like, okay, let's take care of them. Mom just got cancer. That's scary. Like, what does that mean? Right. I'm still taking care of everybody. Right. So go through that. Um, come back to work a few weeks later, which I probably shouldn't have done. And then in April, my mom died. And it wasn't that she was well, she wasn't dying either. So it was a bit of a surprise, not a shock. And so now I've got that on top of things. My kids are still like, oh my gosh, pandemic, and they're in and out of school, and all these things are happening. Then the next October, my brother was killed in a car accident. So at that point, I had a friend who texted me. I happened to be out on a walk on the beach trying to ground myself. And my friend texted me, and I told her what happened. And she said, that's just too much. like she had known obviously my year. She's like, it's just too much. And I just said very nearly was my response. But I said that because I was like that close to just falling apart, just completely falling apart. And I couldn't. I had 3 kids and a job, and I was still getting my MBA through all of this. I stayed, working on my MBA, and I just couldn't fall apart. It just was not an option. So through that time, also part of the breast cancer treatment for me was to go on Tamoxifen, which is an estrogen blocker, because I had an estrogen sensitive form of breast cancer. And even though, and I was very lucky, they caught it early. It was stage 1, but they don't know if anything's floating around out there. They're like, we do this. So we do it for 5 years. So I go on the medication, which is horrible. It pushed me into what might be called like a medical menopause situation. It's made me amenorrheic. But all the menopause symptoms were there. My whole body hurt. I couldn't think. I didn't sleep well. I had hot flashes. I was like, well, I hurt if I go to the gym and I hurt if I don't go to the gym. So I might as well hurt and go to the gym. But right, for me, like that was me because I know what the benefits are of going to the gym. Most women, I'm sure, would be like, I am not going to the gym. This sounds horrible. It was horrible. It was like I just would be on the elliptical. I was like, this is terrible. I hate it, every second of it, which was terrible because the gym has always been my place to release and relax. And I love working out. So it was terrible to hate it. So I'm, at this point, I'm still like, it's my ups and downs. I'm trying to process all of this grief, which I think I truly, in retrospect, I just blocked for at least a year. I think I just didn't deal with any of the grief. I just couldn't. It was just all too much. And I was like, nope, it's just, we're just going to not deal with any of it. So through that time, I think, or I guess in reflection of that time, I think I learned a lot about myself and my ability to cope, but also what my coping mechanisms are. So I do have that ability to compartmentalize and just be like, I am at work now, and all of that is not here. I am here, and this is what I'm doing. Or I'm with my kids now, and work is not here. I am here, and this is what I'm doing. So I really can compartmentalize my life, which is good in lots of ways. But in this way, I was like, and all of this grief, I'm going to put over here.
Meet the basement.
Right? I'm like, we're just going to not deal with that. And it made me capable of getting through my MBA. It made me capable of dealing with my kids and helping them and supporting my family. But eventually you have to deal with it. Eventually you have to go through that grief. So it was this very strange order of things that I had to deal with all of the things that were going on in my head and in my body, and how my body was changing, how it just didn't feel like mine anymore. I hear that now a lot. Like at that time, it wasn't being talked about so much, but I just felt like I was getting old and my body didn't do what I wanted it to do anymore. I I was like not showing up the way I felt like I should or could be able to. Well, it was it was a lot. It was just a lot all at the same time. I then turned to journaling, and I started, and I've always done that on and off, like, it's good for you. Gratitude journal, and I'd start it and I'd stop it and all the things, right? And even since I was in college, I found some old journals that I had. But I took it up again, and then I found myself becoming extremely regular with it. And every night I was journaling. And some nights there were pages and pages of writing, that I write for like an hour. And it was that point that I was ready to start processing. The other thing I started to do was I have my best friend from high school, which I still feel very, very fortunate. And we've known each other since we were 15. And she and I exchange messages on an app called Voxer. It's basically they're just audio messages, which is great. And sometimes we'll leave very long audio messages for each other. We try to break them up to be like, okay, I'm going to pause for a second so you can you know, listen to this later. But I was processing that way with her, and in that very safe space where I could be completely vulnerable with her. So I had these mechanisms for coping, but I was still missing my exercise. It still wasn't doing for me what it had always done for me and what I loved about giving it to other people, which was that peace and that empowerment and that I heard The Rock call it this, Dwayne Johnson. He said, no matter because he had like a rocky childhood, right? Or adolescence for sure. But he said, no matter what was going on in my life, I had my workout and I could control that. I could go and I could do it and I could control it. And one of the things I think I've always loved about working out is if you set a schedule and you set good program design and you allow for good recovery, you will see progress. It is not correlative, it is causative, period. And so it's like, I will do this and this will happen. There's nothing else in life that is like that. There is like literally nothing else in life that is like that. So I think I've always just loved that it was entirely outcomes based. And all of a sudden it wasn't for me anymore. No matter what I was putting in, I wasn't getting out any of the same things that I was getting out before. And
The
it was,
math wasn't
it was,
mathing.
math wasn't mapping, right? I was like, but it's supposed to do this. And I realized also then reflecting back to me in my 20s and 30s and training women who are in their 50s, were like, I can't lose weight and I can't, and I'm like, I also don't know because all the things should be working and I don't understand it. I was like, oh, now it's me. All these things are happening and now it's me and I get it and I get how they feel and I understand and I can empathize, but 20 years too late, sorry. I can now empathize with what you're all going through. So, I did what I do, which is I turned to educating other people and said, well, I mean, I could do it when I was 20. Maybe I can help other people do it better. And so I wrote an article for ACE and I can't remember I think we published it in Certified. And it was really about understanding the physiology of aging and what's happening in people as they age, and then how that is emotionally affecting them and how showing up to work out when you're just chronically achy affects you emotionally, right? And not being able to see results has an emotional effect on you. And that the empathy piece of that becomes so important because if you're not allowing that to be true, if you're not accepting that truth, then you make them feel wrong. And I promise they already feel like they're doing something wrong, right? So I turned to that outlet to be like, well, at least I can help other people. I've gained this empathy, at least I can share that out with people. So this is my life for what year is this? 26, probably 3 years. And then doing my continuing education, I did a course in blood flow restriction training and it was fascinating. Blood flow restriction training is fascinating. There's evidence all the way back until the 1960s when it was first sort of discovered. There's these studies, most of them initially out of Japan, where they, first really started to understand it. More recently, a lot of studies out of the United States because the impact of it, the effect of it is meaningful. So for those who aren't familiar, blood flow restriction training traditionally has been to restrict completely the blood flow to the extremities during movement or exercise. And for many years, it was done only in hospital settings because it was complete restriction, like a blood pressure cuff level of restriction. And so you had to release the pressure at the right times and you had to be tracking on a Doppler to make sure that you weren't causing a blood clot, right? So blood clotting was a huge risk, right? But what they were seeing is with physical therapy patients, with patients who were aging or patients with severe sarcopenia, which is deterioration of the muscle tissue, what they were seeing is that this blood flow restriction training with just this minimal stimulus of exercise, so 20% to 30% of maximum effort, they were seeing muscle hypertrophy and strength gains. And yes, using it in the hospital settings, using it with seniors, using it, in physical therapy settings, and seeing these strength gains. And what they were doing was, seeing the strength gains, and then they would, switch to regular strength training most of the time. But people with severe sarcopenia, would stay really on the blood flow restriction training. Well, today, the blood flow restriction training bands are what might be categorized as a partial occlusion band. So they don't completely occlude blood flow. What they do is they slow the venous return so that the blood is staying in the extremities for longer. So I should explain, well, why does that work? Why does that change anything? Well, there are two ways that people gain muscle. One is the mechanical, which is what we talk about the most, which is sort of that breakdown of muscle tissue. And when you break down that muscle tissue, it builds up again and you have this adaptation, which we call strength and hypertrophy. The other way is metabolic. So during strength training, you also see an increase in lactate in muscles, and that increase in lactate increases or creates a cascade of hormone release. One of those hormones that is released is human growth hormone. So it's a combination of those two things that we've always said, well, it's a combination, and that combination is required for hypertrophy and strength. What blood flow restriction training says is, yeah, but maybe the mechanical's less important than we thought it was, and maybe the metabolic is really, really important here. And so this restriction keeps the blood in the extremities for longer, which increases the amount of lactate that builds up in the extremities. And lactate is also called lactic acid, but it's really lactate. So the lactate in the muscles builds up, and it triggers this hormone cascade more quickly with less intensity. So really, like I said before, 20 to 30% of your max weight, you just do it for longer. So you're doing sets of 30, 25, 20, and that builds up the lactate in the muscles. It was fascinating. I was just fascinated by it. I took that class in December and January. A friend of mine posted on her LinkedIn that she was using blood flow restriction training with clients. And I was like, all right, we got to talk. I was like, all right, I haven't talked to you in months, but we have to talk. So we got on the phone. She's all excited about it because she had this wonderful experience where she had a significant hypertrophy in one side, or atrophy in one side after a hip replacement. And she had gone through early menopause as well. And she couldn't get this. And she was a former Olympic caliber athlete. So frustration was high, right? So she couldn't get the strength back in this one leg. She started doing the blood flow restriction training, and immediately the size and strength evened out in her legs. And she was like, well, and she'd been trying for 15 years. So it was just, or maybe it was 10, but lots of years. And it was crazy. So she's telling me this story, and I was like, that's so cool. Yes, I want to try it, right? At this point in my journey, I had gained about 15 pounds from the point of like where COVID had started. And so, and most of that was because of the tamoxifen. So with that estrogen suppressant or that estrogen blocker, my weight just started to gain, and nothing I did could change it. Like I said, like exercise felt horrible. I was doing it anyway. The intensity was certainly not high intensity. I was exercising regular, strength training regularly. Calorie restriction wasn't helping at all. So I was just seeing, it was just going up. Like everything I did, I was like, why is it going up? I don't understand. So, and I have a family history of heart disease. That's how my mom died. I was like, this is not healthy. What can I do? I just couldn't see a way out of it. So I'm in this phase, and I was like, yeah, let's try the blood flow restriction training, because I could tell that I wasn't gaining muscle and everything hurt. So I went through her program, which was a 21-day sort of onboarding program. And she did 21 days because it's 21 days to build a habit. So it's a 21-day onboarding program. And I was using the blood flow restriction bands, and I was like, all right, I was still, seeing a little difference. And then because of my background, I didn't continue to do her program. She has an online program, which is really cool. She's amazing results from it. But I was like, well, I do know how to exercise. Create my own program design. She was like, cool, you tell me what you learned, and I'm going to tell you what I learned, and we're just going to keep collaborating on this, right? And we learned from each other. But what happened was, as I started to see the muscle development, I was like, oh, my metabolism is faster because I have more muscle. We know this to be true. I'm going to try losing weight again. I had finished my MBA as well. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on this. It takes focus. It takes concentration. I'm going to do it and see what happens. And all of a sudden, I just started to lose the weight. And it was like, but I'm doing the same things I was doing 8 months ago. Why is this all of a sudden working? So it was just a fascinating journey, of course, because I love learning and I love exercise physiology and physiology in general. I was like, why am I losing weight now? I don't understand. Well, come to find out, human growth hormone is essential for lipolysis, which is using your fat cells for energy while you exercise. So as you increase the human growth hormone, you can actually tap into those fat cells for energy while you're exercising. So I was like, oh, that's so cool, right? I was like, and I'm super geeked out, and I'm deep diving and reading all these research studies because I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And all of a sudden I'm learning about the endocrine system in ways that I never cared about before. But so at that point then, from May to September, I lost 23 pounds, and that's rapid weight loss, but I lost that 23 pounds while gaining muscle, which is not normal for rapid weight loss, right? So it was an empowering experience for me to say, I can do something
Yeah.
and take control of my health. The most miraculous thing was I felt better.
Mm.
The pain went away. Workouts felt good again. My strength came back. I could take off the bands and actually do strength training without all these aches and pains in my muscles and joints that I was feeling before. And I had this just amazing transformation through this experience to come back to myself, is what I felt like. I was like, oh, I'm myself again. And I loved going to the gym again. And I looked forward, call it the best hour of my day. Right. It was just like, I just looked forward to it at the end. And I put it at the end of every workout day because it's my transition from, put it at the end of every work day because my workouts transition from work to home. And so I go, I work out, and I'm no longer at work. I'm now, with my family. So it was just this amazing, amazing journey that I went through.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the learnings from it are so much more than just like blood flow restriction training is really great and everyone should do it after a certain age, right? Like, and though I'll say, hey, if you're interested in, definitely look into it because it's super, super awesome. And after a certain age, there are, after the age of 30, every decade, human growth hormone production decreases by 15% per decade. I think I'm quoting that right. It's 15% per decade. And for women, it decreases at the same rate of estrogen when you're in perimenopause and menopause. So now you start decreasing faster than it decreases for men. So like you go, oh, wait, maybe in the 40s and 50s, you maybe make sense to boost your human growth hormone in this very natural way. That's my geeky
I
exercise
love that
science
you
side.
you ended that by being like, I found my passion again. Like I found the
Yes.
thing that worked for me. And it's amazing because when we've interviewed people, everyone has that different moment of like, oh, I refound this thing. And like to see you even talk about it and like to hear how your voice changes as you start to talk about how you felt in love with movement again. It was really inspiring to hear. And thank you for being so open and vulnerable and sharing your experience with us and with our audience. And then ultimately sharing ways that maybe women haven't thought about trying this method that would be really beneficial for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's what's so important is sharing. I think that's one of the things through life I've found is the more I've shared about my journey with my kids and autism and their anxiety or my own breast cancer or what it's like to go through menopause or any of these things, I get oh yeah, me too. Me
Yeah.
too. And when you can see when people say me too, it's like a relief.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, this is normal. Oh, thank God. And I think that's, same for me. And certainly the first time somebody talked to me about perimenopause, I was in my 40s and I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
Because now we're talking about, oh God, it's 23 years ago. We were talking about perimenopause then. I was like,
Right.
what's that? I'm not in perimenopause. Menopause is way down the road. No, I was in perimenopause. That was real. But no one was talking about it. So I just love that people talk about it now. I think it's really important so that we can just feel less alone and more.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Like having a community. That's what we've talked about so often is that you really need this space to know that you're not going through this alone, especially from a fitness perspective, because we're expected to be on and know all the things and always feel good and always have energy and to come forward as fitness professionals and just be like,
Yeah.
look, sometimes shit sucks.
Yeah.
Like you said, like working out,
Yeah.
your safe home, your place where things felt good and normal and right with the world just suddenly goes away because everything
Yep.
hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like losing your anchor to
Yeah.
something. And then when you're not anchored to something, you do kind of float through untethered and you feel confused and you feel alone and you have all of this knowledge about exercise and physiology and the causative nature of you do this and then this happens is suddenly that picture no longer makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you're not already doing it, Lauren, I hope that you write a book about this
Oh,
because you touched on the journaling aspect and there were some days that there were pages and what was cathartic for you is probably therapeutic for others. And I feel like there's real power in the way that you've shared this verbally, but I wonder how empowering it would be to put that on pages to, like you said, one of your core tenets, it sounds like, is sharing. And one of the other things you tapped into reminds me of something Lisa Druxman said about like your challenge is your opportunity. And you captured that so well in these things happen. But what I did was I took this class and I learned about this and then I shared it. So it's catharsis for you, but it's therapeutic just being on the other end of hearing your story in great detail. I knew some of what you went through, but certainly not to this level. And just hearing it, as Jess said, it's pretty inspirational to hear how you navigated it, but then also the things that you learned that you then turned around and shared with other people. That in and of itself is a give back. It's a way of paying it forward and saying, yeah, I get it. And here's what I did. And you too can find your thing and return to your joy. I think there's beauty in that. So I hope you write a book.
Well, thank you, Erin. I never thought about writing a book. Maybe I will think about it. I now have my 3 kids are going to be away at college next year. And I'm also in this state of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's going to be
Write a
crazy.
book. That's what you do.
We're going to write the
Apparently I'm gonna
forward
write a
for you.
book. Yeah.
Jess
Oh,
and
that
I'll
sounds
edit.
awesome. That sounds fantastic. I love this. I'm actually super excited about that idea.
I think you should. I think
really am.
it would be more than a book. It would be a message to anyone going through a similar journey and to the generations behind us that don't yet have that roadmap or that may be in that 23-year-old mindset of, I don't know what you're talking about. It's going to happen and it's going to happen faster than you think it will. And I swear there is something about once you're a mom, time goes by faster. There are no longer the same minutes in every day, or at least they aren't spent the same way. And I feel like here's a gift. Like the whole goal of mentorship and Jess and I doing this is really to leave the industry and people better than how it started. And so I feel like should you capture it in a autobiography, that's a message to not just like a future, but also to the generations behind us. Like I think about my own daughter only being 11 and I'm like, man, she's going to be in her 40s before I know it.
Yeah.
Like, what would I tell her? You know?
Right? Oh my gosh. It's so, I think a couple of things that you said just really resonated with me. I think one is the idea that the time goes faster as you get older. And I think also as a parent, it just flies by. And I remember when the kids were little and people would tell me that the time's going to fly by. And I'm like, sure, I know. And then they're like, treasure every moment. I'm like, yeah, of course. But what they didn't say was, you can't treasure every moment. Some of them suck.
Yeah.
Right? What? Sometimes it's horrible. I had 3 kids under the age of 3, and I don't. My kids will ask, and we joke about it because my kids will ask me questions about like, how old was I when I walked? And I'm like, no clue, don't know. I don't remember. I was like, I had twins, and I don't know. So some of it sucked. There are times I remember, and I definitely, I try to be present all the time, but it's also like, it's okay. It's okay if you're not present every second. And I think that's the other thing is, and it started when I was, a young parent, this idea that, well, these are all the things you should be doing. And then it was blogs, right? But these are all the things you should be doing. These are all the ways that you should be a great parent, that you need to be co-sleeping. You need to be, now what is gentle parenting? Like, and if you don't do that, then you're bad. And then there's other people who are, and they're like, everything's fine. And, and it's so confusing. And I just want to encourage everybody as through those parenting years, it will go fast and that's okay. And every stage will be different and that's super cool. And you show up and do your best every day. And the one rule that we have here is when we screw up, we say sorry. And I apologize to my children. So I think we're super close today. They tell me, I don't think everything, let's be real. I don't think they're telling me everything, but they tell me a lot and we're really close. And I get feedback from other people like, your kids told you that? And I think it's because we have a mutual respect for each other and we've shown that all along. And so anyway, all those things to say, Erin, I just think you're dead on with that. It's going to go super, super fast for everyone. I don't know, give yourself a little bit more grace than you probably are.
I think that's the perfect lead into the next section of our podcast of Lauren, what are you done with? What are you over? What's dead to you?
What am I over? I'm overthinking that I am responsible for other people's happiness.
I feel like that's a mic drop moment that,
was like,
again, like we get to the end of these episodes and I'm always like, wow, that's the line.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
done with it.
Be done.
It is.
I think it's really common for women too to be people pleasers, and don't get, I'm not a super huge people pleaser. If you talk to people who know me, they'll be like, you are not a people pleaser, Lauren. No problem with conflict, respectful conflict. It's always respectful conflict. But I also, during that respectful conflict, was always attuned to how the other person was feeling at every step of the moment, right? In every situation, and felt like I needed to bring it back around so that everybody felt good. And I needed to bring it back to a point where everybody was happy, so that whether it's at work or at home or, friendships or whatever, I was responsible for that. And I'm done being responsible for that. They gotta, if you're not happy, you gotta figure it out.
Good for you.
And if
It's
I'm
their
causing
life.
it, then you have to tell me that I'm causing it and how, and then we can adjust.
Right.
You are not responsible for someone else's happiness. I love it.
Mm-mm.
Erin, what are you done with? What are you over?
This touches on something that Lauren shared about when we're wrong, we apologize. And what I think I'm over is expecting accountability from people who lack the skill to hold themselves accountable. That is not my problem. And I realize like I have this expectation because I will over apologize. Like I'm an overthinker and I'm someone that's like very attuned to how I make other people feel. And so I have a very high level of holding myself accountable. And I make the mistake of expecting that in people who don't have that same level of attunement. And I'm not saying that in a way that's like makes me better. It's that I've burdened myself with having this expectation somebody cannot meet because that's simply not their formula. So I'm done holding others accountable when they lack that skill to really like reflect or be introspective about the things that they've done.
I like that too.
Awesome, Erin.
That's a really great
I love it.
emotional intelligence that more of us should have and be attuned to.
What are you
hopefully.
over, Jess?
I am over what Lauren brought up a moment ago of like people telling you that every moment should be cherished. There are going to be moments of your life that you need to be a goldfish and you just need to forget it happened and move on. Because if we keep going through this life thinking every moment has to be picture perfect, Instagram worthy, story worthy, then nothing ever lives up to expectations. And we're constantly chasing that dopamine hit when that thing happens. And then it's not replicatable and we become disinterested in the everyday life. And I think that sometimes it's okay that we live in a space of beigeness, of like a 7 on the roster where everything is just steady and feels good. We don't always have to be at the top of a roller coaster.
I love that, Jess. And it makes me wish that when I had customized our little Fraggled mugs, that I was able to put on the back of it, under Fraggled AF, beigeness is okay. That's your next gift, my sister.
Love it.
Mark my words.
Oh my gosh. Lauren, thank you so much for being here with us on Fit and Flustered.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so fun talking to both of you.
This was great. Erin, thank you as usual.
Thank you.
And to the audience members, thanks for being here. We appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.